All right, so it's that time again to do a Q&A with everyone from the comments on Instagram and on YouTube. I asked you guys to ask me some questions that I could answer here on the channel. Short, simple, you know how these things go. Let's get into it. So the first one here is, are the recreation film scenes ever coming back? You know, when I started this channel, I did it to start showing how, to take a cheap camera and make it look like an expensive camera, and how it's really all about lighting and set decoration and the vibe that you're trying to create. And I used to recreate scenes from movies. Now, I stopped doing that because, first off, I sort of got bored with it because I used it as a tool for myself to start, practicing cinematography even more than I already had, because I was wanting to do something at home. Because really what I want to try to convey is that it's about set deck and the location and the lighting, but the reality is I mostly only have access to my house and some outdoor areas, and it's incredibly hard to film yourself without a crew, and those things just were not sustainable anymore. Maybe I could do a couple more on the channel, but I feel like I proved my point, and I get how you would want me to do more, because I could probably show off more lighting setups and more ways of creating a mood and a vibe from a movie. But personally here, I'm past that stage where I want to recreate something else. I'm at the point where I just want to make my own stuff and do what's in here and put it out here into the world. And so I did definitely slow down on those recreations. I guess years ago at this point. I know a lot of you guys missed those, and I'm sorry. But what I will try to do is try to create more content on the channel that is cinematography related and film related, so I can produce my own images, and then you can learn from those instead. It is fun. I like doing that. Like when I did that one video about, trying to learn cinematography at home, and I just walked through the entire lighting setup in my living room. That was fun. I might do some more stuff like that in the future. For now, the recreations aren't coming back anytime soon, unless I just get majorly inspired by a movie, or I find a location that fits a movie, then maybe I'll bring those back. I've actually been wanting to do a Dune recreation for a while, ever since the trailer came out. Still might be possible, but then when I realized the lighting setup was just too easy, it didn't even matter anymore, I was like, I got uninspired. So I'm sorry. Maybe those will come back at some point, but for now, I don't really have anything on the horizon. I got a couple questions here. How did you get into the industry? What books have you read to improve on your cinematography? Books? I haven't read a lot of books. The internet exists. There's so much content online on how to learn cinematography. I did read a couple books when I was in film school, over a decade ago, and those probably are helpful. And you can probably find a lot of cinematography books online, but really I listen to podcasts and I watch movies and I watch commercials. And I think what a lot of people need to realize, and one of the techniques that I use when I got into this, I was starting off with commercials. I watched every commercial. I would find all the top directors, all the top cinematographers, and I would follow every single person on Vimeo, and I would sit there for hours watching commercials and analyzing, how do they get that? What is that like? Why is this good? And I would do that forever. I would do my own research. No one taught me how to find my style and to have taste. I did that myself. I just sat there forever and watch stuff. And now I've curated this Vimeo feed. I don't go back to it very often now, but you guys, if you want to use it, you can. You can go to my likes on Vimeo and you can see a bunch of things that I've liked. And you can see that's kind of a pre-curation. I'll give this away for free. Pre-curation of work that I used to like when I started. And you can go through there and see all these things, all the not necessarily trends, but the things that you'll see come up over and over again in each commercial that look nice. And I would like to, I would learn from those things and try to implement that into my own work. Getting started in the industry, I just started shooting. It's really that simple. I think I actually have a few questions in here about people like, when do I start? How do I know that I'm ready? You're ready when you pick up the camera and you start shooting stuff. It sounds crazy and you might have imposter syndrome at first, but the reality is you cannot get work shooting, or you cannot make something without shootings. You just have to start shooting. I've had a camera in my hand to some degree since I was like 12. I just picked up camera, started shooting things. You don't have to post it. You can just make stuff at home, practice cinematography. Then eventually you make a couple things that you're like, oh, this doesn't look so bad. And then you show that to someone else, and simple as that. You put it on Instagram, you put it online, you put it on a Squarespace site or something like that. Thank you, Squarespace, for sponsoring this video. Squarespace is an all-in-one platform to present your work online. If you're anything like me, you're a cinematographer, you're a filmmaker, you're any sort of artist that needs to show your work off to the world, well, Squarespace is a great place to do that. You can start with one of their pre-existing templates to get going, or you can completely build your website from scratch using their back-end tools to do that. You can change fonts and colors and sizing of anything on your website and make it however you please. And once you've completed your website, you might need a domain name to get started. You know, my name is Spencer Sakurai, so of course I wanted spencersakurai.com. Well, you can do that all from Squarespace. You don't even have to leave the platform to make this happen. So if you're looking to create a website right now, you can just do that with Squarespace. Click the link in the description to get 10% off, and I want to thank Squarespace for sponsoring this video. You just start working. The only way to get better at what you're doing is to do more of it. So the reason I am where I am at this point in my life is just because I worked a lot. I just keep shooting. I keep failing. I keep succeeding over and over again. It's just like anything else. I like a good metaphor, I think, for this career is that we're kind of like athletes. You know, we prepare, we exercise, and then someone goes, hey, can you show up for this 1 day, this 2 day shoot, and can you excel at the highest level that you have in you for 8 to 12 hours in a day, and you just have to be there, be prepared mentally, execute, and then leave, just like a game day or something like that for an athlete. We are athletes, basically. You know, you prep and you exercise, and then you execute, and it's really hard, I know, because you're at home and you're like, am I ready for this? You're in your head. Like, can I do that? Do I know how to do that? Once you get on set, you start breaking out lights, you start problem solving, you start looking at an image, it all starts to flow, and you realize that all that crazy amount of time that you spent watching movies and Vimeo commercials, that you were able to create something on your own. Okay, let's do another one here. Something about vintage glass. I know you use your Mikey, however you say that, lenses a lot, but I was wondering what factors affect your lens choice on projects and whether you go vintage or modern. Yeah, this is actually pretty easy. It goes back to the taste thing and the style thing of each project. Like this month, I've did 4 projects, and half of them I use the micas and the other half I use vintage. And it just depends on what the tone and mood is of the project. One project is kind of a more fluid, I have to move a little bit faster project, and I'm trying to get something that's more of like a library of footage that will turn into multiple commercials over a lot of different locations, and I'm capturing things that were kind of happening in real time. And I was just like I was giving like 10 minutes with the subject rather than an hour with the subject. And so for stuff like that, I throw on the micas. I have my I have my camera assistant off on a monitor pulling focus for me, because those lenses are a little bit more contrasty. They're not necessarily sharper than my vintage lenses. They're not super sharp, honestly. They're not super soft either, but they have a little bit more of a crisper image, a little bit more controlled image, I would say, versus my vintage lenses, which are going to bloom and haze easier. Some of them wide open, nothing really is in focus because they are so soft. Another project I did, though, was like a PSA, and it was about like teen mental health, and it was like very moody, and the inspiration was euphoria. Well, of course, then I went full vintage. I'm about to review a lens here. I don't have it handy to show you, but there'll be another video coming out soon, which is a RF mount lens. That's a 35mm T10. And that's kind of the missing link in my lens kit because I don't have a fast 35mm super 35mm lens. So I use that lens to kind of give this vintage look for a lot of that T10 to try to sort of match the full frame look of Euphoria season 1. And then I use my 24mm f1.4, the kind of like that lens that everyone wants, that Canon FD 24mm f1.4. I use that for all the other wide shots in the spot, because you get the soft, moody, the characteristics of the bokeh are just wildly different than using a more modern lens like the mica lenses. And I had the mica lenses on standby the whole time just in case I needed to use them, but I ended up only using those other 2 lenses for the entire spot. We'll talk about that more in a new video coming up soon. I don't have the rights to the spot. I have a couple screen grabs I can show, which is unfortunate. I wish I had more rights to some of the commercials and stuff that I made so I could show them here on the channel, but it just is the reality of this industry. I can't always get access to that stuff. So I hope that answers the question. Modern, if I'm trying to have something more controlled, or if I don't have time to futz with the vintage lenses, as in, they all have their quirks. They're all different sizes. The front elements move differently. So one of them, when I focus, the actual lens moves when I focus versus just the lens barrel, the ring moving. And these are things that you might have to like compensate for. If you don't have time for that and you need something that's super, super reliable the whole time, that's when you would go cinema lenses. Just use the cinema lenses because you know that you're going to have a reliable lens for your shot. Let's see another one here. Pre-production. Pre-production usually just pulling stills and references for stuff that I want to kind of create and embed into my work. Sometimes that's colors, sometimes that's lens choices, sometimes like camera choice. It's a certain vibe of contrast, maybe like the Euphoria inspiration. I did a very low con look when I built my LUT for that, rather than doing the kind of general Rec 709 contrast, or even my Roger That contrast, which is really heavy. For this spot, I went really low con. So that's something I do when I do a pre-production. I'm really just kind of throwing a bunch of stuff in a folder that is for inspiration. I usually don't even bring it up again when I'm shooting. I just kind of get my bearing straight in my head on what I want something to look like, and I do it beforehand. So when I walk in on the day, I have a clear vision of kind of like the vibe I'm trying to go for. What's your favorite focal length and sensor size? Well, that's hard to say. It's not that hard to say, but it depends on the project. So one of these spots I did this month, I wanted to do something that felt very large and empowering. And I had been watching a lot of the show Barry on HBO, and they tend to be either on a full frame camera or a super 35mm camera, but they tend to be probably one focal length wider than you would generally see something shot on. So for my scenario, I use the mica lenses for this. And I shot everything with the speed booster, so we're just going to say that's the equivalent to full frame. And I put the 35mm lens on, which is basically like a 24 on a super 35. But generally speaking, if I'm on a full frame camera or a full frame adapted camera, I'm going to be in the 50mm focal length for my close-ups, or maybe all the shots. I really like the 50. It's kind of the standard. You get really nice separation in the background. The 35 is fun though if you want something more intimate. You want to get close to the subject. You hear a lot of cinematographers are like that. I am no different. I like to be close to my subject. I don't want to be too far away. It just feels funny when you're far away. It creates a different vibe. So if I'm on Super 35, I tend to be on the 24 and 35 the entire time. Maybe I'll go a little wider if I have to, or a little tighter if I have to for an insert. And if I'm on full frame, I'm usually on the 50 or 35. Similar focal lengths there. You can pop on an 85 every once in a while if you need to get, real punch in, but I tend to use the Komodo a lot since it's my camera, and I tend to just crop in on the sensor through the speed booster if I want to kind of just get a little bit tighter rather than throwing on a different lens. Depends on the time, depends on what I'm doing. But I really like my my Canon FD 55mm f1.2 on a full frame camera. That's probably my favorite look as of right now for commercial work. Maybe a little bit with narrative. Narrative is a little bit different because you just need a little bit in focus. You need to be able to get close to the subject, and that 55 at 1.2 obviously is completely out of focus. Something we should talk about soon. I do want to talk about focal lengths and narrative versus commercial soon. That'll be fun to dive into more, because the full format kind of look, full frame look. I mean, I just watched Nope, which is shot on 65mm, and the expanse of that film is so nice, and the separation you get, even though they're not wide open on lenses, is interesting, and we should talk about that at some point again. What is more important, glass or body? If you had 10K, would you spend 8K on glass or the body? Love the channel. In today's time, glass probably more important than your body, since most of the bodies are good. It really comes down to your workflow. I talk a lot about this with my friends and other people that I work with, and I think a lot of people don't understand why I chose the Red Komodo versus a lot of other cameras on the market. And I think a few of you asked that in the comments here, so let's just kind of address that real quick, and it'll kind of tie in. The Red Komodo is great. First off, the price is amazing for what you're getting out of the camera. And yes, there are cameras in the same price bracket that do more, internal NDs, longer battery life, higher frame rate options, full frame, all those things. But I really like raw workflow, and there's a couple reasons, and I can't perfectly explain this, but there is something that's happening on a Red camera, even when you're shooting ProRes. It just looks meatier than a 10-bit camera from like Sony or something. There is a little bit more dynamic range on like an FX3 or an FX6, But when I can spot FX6 footage, I can spot FX3 footage from a mile away. Looks great. There's definitely nothing to complain about, but I'm just kind of a quality first person. I'm like obsessed with it. I don't know why, but I'm obsessed with give me everything I can get, and then I can adjust it later, you know? So that's why I like the Komodo so much. It's like low quality, medium quality, raw. You just get so much information. You get so much color depth. There's just a certain texture that you get. You just like, it's all there. All the information is there. And so you're not really compromising. You're not really having to think about the camera as much. Like what's the image doing? Oh, I better do this. I better shoot this way. So the camera, looks a certain way. And of course, every camera is going to be like that. But I just want to capture the most thickest negative possible, if you will. Like if you're shooting on film, it's, put as much light on that sensor as possible and capture all the detail. And that's why I like it. It has a lot of downsides. It has weird frame rate options and you have to crop in and stuff like that. So, I mean, to get rid of those things, I would probably have to get the Red Raptor, which I really want. I probably will get the Red Raptor at some point. We'll see. That comes back to the workflow thing. So I like the Red Raw workflow. I basically color all my projects at this point. If I don't, I try to bake in some sort of look or I send a LUT through. But at this point with all my projects, I'm just like, hey, if you don't have the budget for a colorist, just send it to me anyways. Like for me, the integrity of the image, I would like to color it to make it look the way that it looks. And the raw just gives me so much more flexibility in post. I actually really like to use the ISO adjustments over using like exposure adjustments on DaVinci. I like to be able to add a little noise if I want to, or pull the noise away, or, just remap the whole sensor if I need to. And the white balance, I know everyone's like, oh my gosh, it's just white balance. You can fake the white balance in DaVinci and you can pull a slider. And it does, it works fine. I've used a lot of 10-bit cameras and pulling the slider, changing the colors does work in 10-bit really well. But changing the white balance from the raw footage, it looks better. It feels better. It looks more natural. And you don't really notice it until you start grading. You're like, oh, something's different here. And the raw just gives you that. And the raw file size on a Red, it's small. It's better than a lot of other cameras. It's personally, to me, it looks a lot better than Blackmagic Raw. Blackmagic Raw is really efficient. It looks really great, and those cameras are great for what they are. But there's something about Red Raw that just works for me, and I'm sorry, I can't give you a mathematical reason why it looks better, but it does, in my opinion. Which is the other question is like, why didn't you get the Blackmagic Ursa Mini 12K? It's the same price. You could have bought them and you didn't have to wait around for a Komodo. Goes back to the same thing. Red's been around a long time. That Red Raw workflow is proven. So is B-Raw. I'm not saying it's not. I'm a proponent of that. But that camera, I wanted something small that can become anything. I could go smaller or bigger. That camera is just huge. It has the built-in NDs. It has a screen on it. It has all those things on it. I didn't want that. I also do feel like, as much as I love Blackmagic cameras, there is something about the highlights on Blackmagic cameras that I cannot put my finger on, but they look plasticky or something. They don't. And I know the 12K is different. I haven't shot with the 12K, so I can't talk to it that much, but I've seen a lot of footage with it. But it just didn't. It doesn't have the thing that I wanted. It didn't have that vibe that I wanted. This comes down to personal preference. The camera is personal preference. Everyone's like, what's the best camera? No, what is the best camera for you and your projects? I don't even use the Komodo for every project. Like, each project is different. I would like to, and I try to, because I get a little extra money when I throw it in my kit. And I know the camera inside and out, so I would like to use it. But different look for different things. And you'll hear that time and time again, and people are not blowing smoke. Different cameras for different things. They do different things. I like the workflow of this one. It's a little box. I know I can get 6K Red Raw, and then I can do whatever I else want to. I can throw a speed booster on there. I can put a big battery on there or a small battery. I can throw it on a little gimbal, or I can build it all the way up to where it's the biggest cinema camera ever. It has proper SDI on it, which it doesn't even have HDMI on it. These are the things that I care about. These are the things that matter to me in a camera. We're probably already gone way too long. Let's get into a couple more things here. No one talks about C-stands. What's a brand you consider? Get a Matthews C-stand. If you can't afford it, get an Avenger C-stand. But get Matthews. Get Matthews as your C-stand every time. And get them in black. They used to sell them in chrome. Why they sold them in chrome makes no sense to me. They reflect all over the place. You might get this weird eye light off of a chrome light stand in your actor's eye that you didn't want, then you have to block it. Get black stands. Black stands blend in, they disappear. Chrome makes no sense. How do you go about requesting locations for places that you want to rent for a shoot? Do you normally offer a rate or ask them to set a price? I'm a DP. I don't normally handle this, but I have handled this before. I have been the production side of creating videos. I've obviously made some of my short films. Yeah, it's always good just to kind of ask if they're interested. If a location is interested, you really like this location, you can just go ask them if it's something that they'd be willing to let you film in. And then if they're being a little odd about it, or if they're a professional business and not just a home, or if you feel like you're putting them out, of course, offer a rate. A few $100s to, $200 to $800 or something like that per day to use a location, depending on how much you're using the location. Definitely offer a rate. What I found in this business is if you want something, if you want your image to look better, you need to be willing to pay to make it look better. Money goes a long way on image creation, and that's the reason I'm not doing the recreations anymore, because I don't have just money laying around to build an entire set from Dune. The location matters so much, and you need to be willing to pay for it. Actually, I would say that most of the budget for any video that you're making should go into art, set deck, locations, actors, wardrobe, over your camera. And so think about that. If you're just getting started, I bet you're obsessing over cameras, because cameras are fun to play with and you're gonna be able to use them on all your jobs and stuff like that. If you're doing something personal that you're trying to really level up your cinematography, invest in set deck, art department, locations. Like, say you're gonna make a spec commercial, you have $2,000. Put $1,500 of it into all of that stuff. Save $500 for your camera package. Because at the end of the day, what you put in front of your lens is more important than what the lens is at this point. So keep that in mind. So definitely be willing to pay for locations if you think it's going to make your imagery look better and you're a DP and you want to level that up. How does one actually know if they're ready to go full time? I sort of touched on this already, but really it comes down to money. I mean, I can't talk to you about your financial situation. When I started, I was working like a part-time job at a restaurant, shooting things on the side. And eventually one day, I was making more money shooting stuff on the side than I was at the restaurant. And once I could start paying some bills by doing that, I was having enough consistent work, and that's the time. I mean, you're the one that's going to have to know, but you definitely have to jump in. You have to say, I'm a DP, or I'm a whatever you're trying to do, and you just have to go do it. You can't be afraid. You just have to do it. Even if you feel like you're creating the work that you want to create or at the level that you want to create, one job leads to another job. One contact leads to two more contacts. So you got to jump out there and start making work and showing that off, or no one will know to hire you to begin with. And the never-ending debate between film and digital. Do you think one will eventually come on top? Why and why not? No, neither one of them is going to come on top, because just like I said before, each camera is different for each project. So Nope, for example, 65 millimeter film, they did that for a very specific reason. They were trying to go for this grandiose, natural vibe, and there was kind of this meta stuff going on where there's actually an IMAX camera in the movie, which doesn't really spoil anything. And it's like, that's the first question. How would you capture Godzilla if you had any camera in the world? Well, probably use an IMAX camera. If you're going to put a camera on a drone, put a Red Komodo on a drone, because it's small, it has no rolling shutter. It's the same thing. Film is a preference. Film slows you down on set. Me, as a hopefully future narrative director of things, I am not intrigued by film at all right now. I'm learning how to direct. I'm learning how to make short narrative projects. And for me, a digital camera is the coolest thing to ever happen to that. So why would I not be able to use as many takes as I want? Be able to change my options on the fly in the camera, or play back whenever I want. Film, I don't care about film at all right now. But later down the line, maybe I want something that's more simple but organic feeling, and has that kind of that other look that you just can't get from digital. Then maybe I would shoot on film. But for me, now at this point, my brain actually likes digital better for some reason. It's like come full circle. Well, I actually like the look of digital over film right now. Film looks amazing. I won't ever deny that. But dealing with shooting on it isn't something that I'm really intrigued by. But if I had the opportunity, I would still do it anyways because it's still fun. And it does look amazing. So there's that. But if my idol Roger Deakins gave up film and shoots everything on Alexa, I'm cool with that as well. It's just affirmation. Okay, well, I think that does it for today. I think I've talked plenty. There'll be more videos here coming soon. I'm going to do a lens video basically over that new lens that I just acquired, as well as kind of talking about my vintage lenses a little more. And that should be up here in the next few days. So subscribe if you aren't already subscribed to the channel to see that. Or obviously follow along if you are already subscribed to see that video coming soon. And until next time, guys, I'm Suja Sakurai. See ya.